No, there is okay, so there's like three components to this, which oddly enough would have been the topic. I guess I'll just jump into it and it's open discussion, so feel free to jump
Sorry,
while I'm
I was
talking.
it occurred to me and I was like, oh, this might be a good thing for everyone to kind of
Yeah, yeah,
talk
yeah.
through.
So it makes sense because okay, so it's a three-part problem. It's psychological, it's physical, and then it's societal. So on the physical side, they took away classes for like they took away gym class, shop class. They took away competition for men, right? And then on the physical side as well, it's food. We're eating a lot of slop and poison. On the societal side, it's that term toxic masculinity. All right, it's almost like a sap. So when you said you felt better carrying the knife around, you felt more powerful or whatever, more protected, more ready. That's the psychological component. The psychological component of winning also in competition raises your testosterone. So it's a couple of things at play here. So our test levels are lower in general because of the food we're consuming. The shit society tells us that we're toxic, right? And then the way we have schooling tuned and all the rest of this stuff. So essentially this term, we can start with the term toxic masculinity because that's especially acute for the young guys today. What is toxic masculinity? They grew up in a world that's not scientific, by the way. That's not a scientific term. There's nowhere you can find in psychology something called toxic masculinity. That's some bullshit from like feminist academia that sprouted up in the 80s or 90s. All of it through the gender studies that has essentially like swept colleges through a firestorm and went into the mainstream vernacular. And now you see all the TikTok girls talk about toxic masculinity, and they're essentially just trying to label every male instinct like as if it's a pathological problem. So the American Psychiatric Association, whatever, or American Psychology Association labeled what was it? Stoicism as being toxic masculinity. So any traditional virtue of masculinity, competitiveness, putting others before you, aggression, right? Protection, stuff like that is now considered competition. Stoicism, managing your emotions as a man in the male fashion, is toxic masculinity. So they start to break you down as a young boy as you're entering into society from a very young age to tell you that you're mentally you're fucked up. Physically, you're a threat. You are what do they call us? Predators, right? Society looks at us as criminals from the very beginning. We're defective girls. That's what they treat us like in school. And we actually bought into this. And we'll go and pay. You've seen plenty of men. They'll go into therapists, paying them $200 an hour or more, and basically have your balls removed by a licensed professional to tell you why you are the toxic one in a marriage, why you need to adjust your tone with your woman, why you need to change the way you behave in the workplace, right, with HR and shit like that. So we're living in this. I saw a term for it recently. It's called like gynofascism, and that's really what it is. We're like under the tyranny of a feminized society. And these therapists will say, your behavior is wrong because this is what we've accepted as a pathology, toxic masculinity. The very thing that brought us here, the very thing that created our society, the very thing we depend on for everything to function is now a problem. This is why I tell you guys, we live in kind of like an inverse world. And they took a pro-masculine concept, essentially, and they turned it into something to beat you over the head with it. Every time you have this behavior that comes natural to you, every time you have an inclination of being competitive, of grinding, of rising above the rest, putting in 100-hour work weeks, making your female coworkers look like shit, perhaps outperforming your female coworkers, or your little boy doing well at school. That's now bad. You're making other people feel bad. And this is how we give people medals for getting into last place. It's not a surprise that we've become kind of a systematic diffusion of positive masculine traits into highly feminized, weak emotional boys as the standard. This is why we get medals for last place. This is why it's okay if you didn't perform well. This is why we were trying to get rid of competition. This is why we're feeding our young kids with bullshit like men and women are the same. There's no differences, kumbaya shit, and it couldn't be further from the truth. And this is the society that we've inherited. And it's like, imagine as a young boy, you are on a school playground, and you're a kid and you're playing, and You're pushing around with the older boys and you're wrestling, and a female teacher runs up to you, tells you that you're being bad, that you're not allowed to wrestle that way, and then you get reprimanded and get a suspension as a young boy, or they call your parents and tell you that you were fighting when you were just play wrestling, and then you're recommended to go on Adderall. They put you on some fucking pill because the kid's hyperactive. He needs to calm down. He's got too much energy. He's just a boy. Those are just boys playing in the playground. But we pathologized what it means to be masculine and turned it into something that's considered defective. So everybody has to be good little girls, sit in class, watch the teacher give a boring lecture, talk about your problems, never lash out physically in any way. And then you're supposed to go through life as a man this way, when you end up just being weak, emotional, dysfunctional, and potentially, as we've seen today in society, extremely dangerous. Who are the men that are shooting up the schools and shooting up the public spaces? It's not men that look like this. It's not men like us. We don't have these, we have control of our emotions. What the fuck do those guys look like? Half of them cut their dicks off. The other half are on estrogen. They look like nut jobs. They're the ones that are completely dysfunctional. They manage through their emotions through violence. And because you're a man, and when you don't have a grasp over yourself, yes, you are a threat physically. Yes, you can act out on that and become violent. When a woman does it, it's fine. Society just slaps them on the wrist. Oh, you know, girl boss, go babe. She's just aggressive. She's a boss. She's a boss babe. For them, it's positive because they're weak, they're meek, and they're taught to be submissive throughout all of time, except the last like 60 years or so. So them breaking out of the mold and being masculine, ironically, being more manly, being more traditionally masculine, is seen as something positive for women. But if a man tries to be what a man naturally is, it's a negative. This is the inverse that we're living in. They're telling us as men that if we're more feminine, that's what we should be, more like women, and women should be more like men. And neither of us are happy on the internal side of things. There's friction going on there. And this is what you could call today the mass effect of anxiety that men and women are feeling, the depression that people say they have, the amount of pharmacologicals people are on, all those pills that they're on today. That's what it's manifesting as when we're not following our gender roles. And it's not just us, because women actively get shit on for being feminine, guys. You see this. Like, you get a woman with a baby in her hands in a kitchen looking happy for her husband, her comment section is going to be full of masculine women absolutely dogging her out and shitting on her. So women have very similar pressures to be melded outside of their traditional gender norms where they feel the most happy. And they're doing this to us too. This is one way that you control people in society. And you take away a man's reason to be strong, or you take away a man's need to be responsible for something. You take responsibility from a man away. We used to have kids at all our ages. We used to already all be married at our ages. We were responsible for things. We had things to protect. Well, then you're surprised why men end up weak, why the suicide rate for men is like 4 times that of women. And I think it was like 3.5 globally from what I was reading. Right? We are surprised now that men are checking out of society, and 60%, if not more by now, colleges are filled with women. Women are the vast majority of college graduates now. So is it really a shock that of all the men checking out, it's the ones that the ones that are mostly checking out right now, disproportionately so are the young men. The young men are the ones that are not working, not dating, not trying to build a future for themselves because they see how rigged it is. They've been beaten down psychologically. Forget the economic side. It's hard. We get that. But before they even started earning their first dollar, when they turned on the TV, when the cartoons were telling them that they are, boss babe this, girls could do everything better, they're seeing every single show that man is a stupid, bumbling idiot. He can't do anything for himself. All of that stuff seeps into your mind. That sets the tone for how you see yourself growing up in the world. And then that, coupled with the shitty food that we're eating and all the poison that's in that's lowering your testosterone, and the sedentary lifestyles, because we don't make kids be physical and go outside and play anymore, you get a fat kid full of chemicals, low as fuck testosterone, highly estrogenic, told he needs to manage his emotions like a woman, and then is surprised he either retreats completely or explodes on society and just shoots up fucking in a mass tragic event that you'll see on the news. And then you will see them blame masculinity. Again, It's men that are the problem. It's not the weak feminine men we created. It's not femininity encapsulated in a man's body that's actually the evil thing. It's just simply that it's masculinity. So we need to retool the way we bring up all men. All men need to be castrated socially to make them more acceptable for society. You're seeing this happen in mosques. Look at all the young guys. Look at Gen Alpha. Look at what they look like. Look at what they're watching. Look at how they're dressing. They're extremely feminine. It's not looking good for the future of society. And then I'm not even touching up on it. Just remember this: fatherlessness rates. They also blame masculinity for that. But who is the main people that are kicking men out of the homes? It's the women, because they're collecting the paycheck from the government. The single greatest predictor for what? For like crime, drug addiction, dropout rates in high school, incarceration and suicide, and essentially every bad outcome is tied to the father being in the home or not. And we know this as a society. If that's the case, how can masculinity still be toxic? And on the female side of things, if she doesn't have a dad, she ends up on the pole, she ends up on OnlyFans, she ends up drug addicted with like fucking thousands of dudes. She ends up being a whore. So if daddy is that important, how could masculinity be toxic? That's simply a father not being present. Look at the damage it causes in children. And society tells us, especially men, that you're just optional, bro. You're just good for sperm, and she gets to keep the kid. Society will pay for it. And you just need to be the walking wallet that funds all of this shit. You're not needed in the home because, she'll do a better job anyway. She's a woman. And we're expendable for the courts, for the welfare system, and in the culture. Do you see how it's all starting to come together? So we're getting poisoned. Men are in a crisis right now. And it's because we don't have any masculinity. It's not that there's toxic masculinity. There is no more masculinity in the culture. God, I grew up in the 90s and saw early 80s movies, 90s movies. Do we even have action figures anymore? Superheroes that we used to have, like action movie stars. Do you guys remember Sylvester Stallone, Arnold, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and all those other guys? Everybody was Wesley Snipes. All these dudes were steroided out of their minds. They look like real life superhumans, superheroes. They look like action figures. And the movies were extremely masculine. Some army shit, special forces inserting in the jungle like Predator. Like the opening 20, 30 seconds of Predator on the helicopter would literally get you canceled today. Talking about sexual tyrannosaurus, woman with like a cavernous vagina. He's making a joke about his voice echoing, and like the most masculine red pill kind of conversations that in 20, 30 seconds would have any movie canceled today. That was just the standard. That was the norm. Spec Ops forces inserting in the fucking jungle to hunt down and do some reconnaissance and whatever, and they end up getting killed by fucking an alien. We don't have movies like that anymore. You have superhero movies, and they're PG-13. They're not even rated R. You don't even see blood. They go watch the Avengers, and they think that's manly. Some fag in a cape. Capes and aliens. Capes and aliens is what our young boys are growing up into. Like, what is masculine in your eyes? It's Thanos. And he snaps his finger and half the world disappears. He's real man. Dude, we're cooked. You understand? They've completely subverted what it means to be a man today. And it starts off in the most disingenuous, toxic way imaginable. That is when you're an infant, when you're a little boy, with the toys that you pick up and play with. Do you think they have action figures like He-Man when they pick up a toy and play with that today? They're literal cartoons for children that are already engineering this whole non-binary shit. I'm not a boy or a girl. I like to be called an it. The kid's 2 years old. You're being subverted. And this starts young. Can you imagine? So when you say like, hey, they want us to be controlled, of course, that kind of man grows to be soft, vulnerable, fucking weak. You shrink and then you defer to everybody else. You're hollowed out. You're the hollow man for society. You don't have your own opinions. You'll never stick your neck out for anything. You don't want to cause any problems. You'll never stand up for yourself or your own opinion. You're not a threat to the government. You're not a threat to the establishment. You think you're going to be one of the ones to rebel out on the streets when things get rough? Those guys will keep their head down and eat shit, because it's better to eat shit than have nothing at all or risk your life to stand for something. You've been engineered to not stand for anything your entire life. This is what they want. Mass-produced bots that are weak, soy-filled effeminate that they can use to control because they've already destroyed the home. Step one. Then you come after the women. Step two. Then you completely, what could you brainwash the children when they're vulnerable with only a single mother in the household? Step four, profit. Now you have total control over society. The testosterone, all this shit, yeah, you can call it a psyop. You could almost say it was a grand plan engineered perfectly from the top down to totally destroy the nuclear family and eventually the genders, because you don't even form nuclear families anymore today. We've got it down to the wars between men and women. And then the war will soon be split amongst the men, the conservative versus lib cucks, the real men. They love to say that too. What's a real man? Even women will start to describe to a man what a real man should be. The definition changes to fit everybody that they benefit while you're in last place being extracted from. When a woman tells you what a real man is, she's essentially saying, this is what I need you to be so I benefit the most from you while I take and you give. When a government tells you they need real men, they want bodies for war. They want tax-paying citizens. They want people who don't ask for change, who don't vote for change, who are okay with the status quo. That's what a real man is. How can I fuck you out of everything you're able to provide so you end up with nothing? That's what it is. They benefit from every single masculine virtue. And when it's time for you to become virtuous masculine-wise, and you stand up for yourself and you have an opinion and you'd like to see the world be a better place and you'd like to change the status quo, you're a threat. You're a problem. You have to be dealt with. You have to be medicated. You have to be suppressed. Or you just have to be, pacified through porn and video games, other entertainment, other slop. So, and we don't win, by the way, in any of this stuff because, for example, like hypergamy doesn't care for weak men. So it's essentially building us into the very thing they find unattractive. So another reason so many men are having problems today with women is because while they tell you they want you to be soft and emotional and talk about your feelings, that's the exact shit that women find unattractive. That's the exact shit that women run away from. That when they say they want equality, but if you ask for 50-50 on a date, what does a woman tell you? Fuck off, right? And if you don't lead, if you're not a leader in your relationship, a woman will tell you what? She'll spit in your face eventually and say, well, I want a real man that could lead me. I want a real man that could take care of me, that can handle me. Oh, so now you want the toxic masculinity, right? When it benefits her. Now she wants the masculine virtues. But for all the other things, you're supposed to be a simp, a walking wallet. You're supposed to be the weak man that they're trying to build. All of this is biological firmware. This is like hundreds of thousands of years in the making. We're never changing. That's part of the biology of us. You have a need in you to compete. You have a need in you to hoard resources, to get women to become successful. They have a need in them to secure the resources, to be led, to be around strong men. You want a nice, soft, feminine woman. You can't explain why you do. It's just built into you. You don't want a combative woman. You can look at a woman that's acting very masculine and aggressive, and it's a turnoff. It's natural. You don't have to have an explanation for why it is. It's off-putting. So we're living in a society where they're telling you, ignore all that. Strong boss babes are attractive. Ignore all that. Get you a working woman, a woman that wants to have a career, to put that before her family first. It's not going to work. You're fighting against biology. It's the same shit. They're telling you to be weak, soft, and effeminate for the women because they like a man in his soft era. It's bullshit. They don't. We know that they don't. It hasn't worked. They want a nice guy. That's what they tell you, right? That's what society says you should be, a nice guy that respects women. Yeah, how far does that get you in dating? It doesn't. So we need to have a real conversation essentially about what actually is a strong man, what the real masculine virtues are, the ones that they're trying to tear down, and that those guys are the actual ones that are holding up society. The burden on their shoulders. They're the Prometheus. They're the ones that make the world go round. Strong men do. Strong men are why we have peace. Strong men is why there is no war. Strong men is why we have borders, rules, laws. That is why society is functioning. You can walk out at night. Shit is safe. The lights turn on. The water flows. Everything works. You are protected. The store has food. Every aisle is filled. And it all works almost like magic. That's because it's on the backs of strong men who built complex systems for the people they care about. That's what masculinity is about. Not this degenerate shit, this actual toxic masculinity that is essentially a subverted feminine nature to it, of men dancing like fucking women, cutting their dicks off, painting their nails, being weak, combative, loud, running their mouths just like women, has absolutely no control over their emotions. Those are the guys that are spilling blood in society with mass tragedies. Those are the guys you see on the news committing horrendous crimes. Those are the guys that are beating women. Those are the ones that are touching children. It's the weak men. No masculine man does any of that shit. It's the weakness in men that does that. That's what we should be eradicating. And we live in a society that pushes the weakness as the standard. And you wonder why there's more tragedies than there's ever been? Do you wonder why there's more PEDs running around here, including in our government, than there's ever been? Do you want to know why our borders have been weaker than they've ever been? Why we got massive immigration, destabilization? We have no adults in the room running the government. Our currency is evaporating before our very eyes. They're fucking stealing from us. The taxpayers. They're enriching themselves in These are weak people. Those are weak men. Our society has been subverted. The weakness rose to the top because they're easily controlled by those behind the curtain. You can't tell a strong man with principles and morals and values what to do. The only way is to kill him, like they did JFK. And then you install the puppets, the weak pieces of shit, the ones that push this kind of messaging. And these people are the ones that are uplifted in front of us, whether it's through music, whether it's through politics, our leaders, movies, wherever it is in the culture, you see weakness is the standard today. That's the subversion, guys. You have to become the problem that they're afraid of. You have to take it into your own two hands. You have to have a system which you're governed by, your kind of like your rule book for what it means to be a man in the world today, because that's all you really have. Man code. You have to get up every day, do things you hate to do, but you know they're good for you long term. Delayed gratification. Don't get caught up in the slop of the internet or the culture or whatever it is. Become strong, be the pillar your family can lean on, your friends can lean on, your community can lean on, because that's all you're going to have in this world that keeps getting more and more disconnected. Refuse to participate in that castration that they call society today. I'll open it up to you guys. Go ahead before I keep going too long in this shit. No, there's the... What's going on, guys? How is everybody doing? We are live. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Shout outs to everybody on Kick.
GG6JZ sent $2. About time.
About time. About time. I'll play a couple of the supers that already started. Thanks, guys. Is this live?
Isaac Vanderbilt 4505 sent $2. Don't excite. Quit your job and chill at a shelter.
Thank you, Des, for the 100 kicks. Yeah, so we have a lot of interesting updates today with the war, boys. What's going on? We're sending Marines.
Isaac Vanderbilt 4505 sent $2. Just quit working. Young men run this planet.
Well, work for yourself. I wouldn't say quit working. I'd say stop working for everyone else and work for yourself. Make yourself rich. Work on your dreams, your goals, your business. I would put it that way. Quit partaking in the system that abuses you, yes, but work for yourself, for sure. I'm all caffeined up, boys.
At Isaac Vanderbilt 4505 sent $2. Just quit working. Young men run this planet.
Oh, we already heard that one. Okay. Good to see you back. Thanks, brother. Good to be back. Will that one play live? Let's see. Oh. Okay. All right, so let me get into this. I'll turn these a little down. We got quite a bit of updates. Let me pull up my notes. The world's getting crazy. Really crazy. I spent like all night last night just piecing together a bunch of this information about what's going on with the war and all that stuff. And yeah. Let me play these. Hold on. Fine. Right before we start.
Asmodeus sent $5.
Thank you,
The
brother.
West is in the same place the Roman Empire was when the Senate became exceptionally corrupt and representative government no longer worked. We need a Julius Caesar type leader to rise up.
Yeah, but if you've seen the latest batch of leadership that we have, we are far from a Julius Caesar. We're getting Nero. We have Neros. We're burning down the empire. That's it. So we're in our Nero
sent
phase.
$5. Goikachu use live.
Thank you, brother. Yes, we are live. This is currently live. Yeah, we're literally, the Senate is all Neros. The House is all Neros. The Congress is all Neros. The President is Neros. Caligulas. Yeah, Neros and Caligulas. We've lost the initiative in the Middle East. Oh well. What can you do, dude? Sit back and watch, right? So, I will not say Allah Akbar. Okay, there you go. I said it for you. Done. All right, I'm going to pause these for a second so we can get through this. Because things are getting crazy. We were promised that everything would end in a couple of days. We were told that some bombs here and there and shit would get fixed. And, you know, we decapitate the head of the snake. And that was it, guys. That was supposed to be it. One and done, Venezuela style. But it looks like the ground wars no longer talk right now. So the Wall Street Journal is reporting that the Pentagon is going to move additional Marine forces into the Middle East. And Hegseth already approved deployment for 2,200 Marines from Tripoli, the amphibious ready group. So that is the USS Tripoli, the San Diego, and the New Orleans. And shipping out of Japan with roughly, 20-something F-35 Lightning IIs. That's a staging for a coastline insertion. And I just want to make sure you guys understand, that's how we opened up the Vietnam War with Marines. Okay, and the numbers officially say 2,000 something, but I have gotten recent reports right before getting on the live stream that as much as 5,000 total are actually being prepared. So maybe somewhere in the middle there, the Department of War probably recalculated just exactly how many more Marines were needed, and that number doubled right away. We are going to make an attempt either on Karg Island or trying to force the reopening of the Strait. Who knows? So you had multiple military analysts in the journal, and they're now saying that the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz is going to require ground invasion, right? To seize the whole Iranian coastline along the waterway between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. And even JP Morgan put out a note, I think today, saying that if the U.S. cannot achieve a short-term victory, it seems likely that will be forced to attempt a ground war to reopen the Hormuz. And if that happens, it transforms into a multi-year war. That's JP Morgan. Now, there's not some dude on Twitter, like some weird Annan account. JP Morgan is saying that. And Iran knows this is coming, by the way. This is what they're planning on. Can you imagine how we've gotten slow walked? Not even slow walk. We're day 14 into this. And we've already been walked into just bomb them to hell to we're going to stage an insertion with Marines now, 5,000 of them. Who would have thought this was going to happen? Who would have thought that this initial 4 or 5 day operation is now turning into a ground invasion, an insertion? Because we can't. So this is what you guys have to understand here. This is the crazy part. we've wasted so many ordinances on Iran already without being able to crack their, transfer of power to Moshtaba. You have to understand this. We don't have enough bombs to literally bomb all of them. For complete capitulation of 92 million people in a decentralized fashion that they're operating with the IRGC, where they have independent units operating all over the country, we don't have enough bombs to bomb them into submission. Do you understand? So we have to send in ground troops. If Iran's plan is just to wait, all they have to do is just wait. Their victory is attrition warfare by economic damage. So now we have to escalate to regain the initiative and reopen the straits, because if we can't get the straits reopened, we're dead in the water. The world economy crashes, and then American hegemony will follow. So the new supreme leader, Moshtaba Khamenei, he came out yesterday and basically said all of that shit out loud. He said that they're going to close, or they want us to close, every U.S. base in the region, or they'll be attacked. They wanted full compensation for all the damage Iran took, which is, in equivalent of the assets. Then the Strait of Hormuz stays closed indefinitely, and new fronts are now going to be activated in Yemen, in Syria, wherever they can reach. He accused the U.S. and Israel of trying to divide Iran internally and said it failed because look who's in power. And they're not looking for an off-ramp. Okay? The Israeli assessment actually backed this up, because the Wall Street Journal is reporting on the same shit yesterday, that Israeli officials now believe that Iran's regime is unlikely to fall anytime soon. Are you getting the forever war feeling here? So while we're looking for an off-ramp, and Israel now wants an off-ramp because the Iron Dome is failing, we're out of interceptors, they miscalculated just how hardened the Iranian government would be. And I've seen videos of the president of Iran and the foreign minister walking in the streets today. Today, I saw these videos, surrounded by crowds of people just walking past them. Where's this so-called uprising? Where is the anger of the people that they told us, right? Think about this for a second. We're being told that 40,000, 30,000, 6 million have been killed by this oppressive regime. So how are government officials walking around without being harassed if they're so hated like they tell us? And then, just like the jobs report, we're over here going, oh, sorry, we have to wind those numbers down. It was actually 271,000. So what our media is telling us about how much support the regime has is a complete lie. None of this makes any sense if you were to believe what you see on CNN or Fox News. That is the narrative pushing. We have far more dead or injured than even we're willing to admit. The numbers are far higher. So the regime is unlikely to fall anytime soon. Check. The security apparatus, the IRGC and the Baji, they remain fully intact, right? And no popular uprising is coming, because the fear of the so-called crackdowns that they told us are working. No, just the CIA and Mossad failed, essentially, with their color revolution. So now, we've shifted from regime change to military degradation, which means the war has no defined end state, which is exactly what makes a ground operation so dangerous, because, does victory even, what does that look like? If you've already admitted the regime is surviving, does that make any sense? And while we're talking about sending Marines into, insane situations, the munitions part of this equation gets worse day by day. The Financial Times was reporting that the U.S. consumed the equivalent of a year's worth, or multiple years worth, since the war started. We're talking years, guys, not one. Years of stockpile is burned in days. And the pentagram, actually makes sense to call it the pentagram, but the Pentagon is now preparing to request emergency supplemental funding for the buildup. Something like $50 billion, just out the window. We just burned that, right? The concern inside the building is essentially what this does for readiness in other theaters, like if Taiwan were to be threatened by China. We're deploying so many munitions here, and what are we going to do if China decided to make a move? into Taiwan. So I think it was Bloomberg. They're also reporting that Iran's missile launcher is their arsenal of missile launchers, you could call them that. They're holding steady despite all the strikes that the United States and Israel claims that they destroyed something like 90% of their capacity to strike, or they quoted another number was like 66% of Western estimates say that 60%, but the actual launcher count hasn't changed because these things are mobile. And I told you guys, not only mobile, but they're camouflaged and they just start moving them. I explained to you guys that they have mobile launch platforms. It's not like they're coming out of silos, and nobody wants to believe that. They were parroting this 90% degradation in their firing capabilities for days now, yet somehow their firing rate is increasing. Multiple missile barrages are hitting Tel Aviv all the time. How is this happening? If you're telling us that you've bombed them to hell, you've degraded their capability, how are they still launching? And not only are they launching the shitty stuff, they're starting to launch their high-end ballistic missiles that are doing a ton of damage, right? So, okay, the ballistic missile barrage rate is down 80%, 90%, but somehow the infrastructure is still intact. And now Iran shifted to those mass-produced Shahed 136 drones. They're just launching them. They cost nothing. The Shahed 136, I read recently that the actual cost is not $35,000. It's $7,000. $7,000 is what it actually cost Iran to make them. Holy fuck. So they're accomplishing stupendous economic damage, like attritional warfare at a $7,000 cost, and we're shooting missiles that are worth millions of dollars. One analyst was like laying out the math. So Iran shot down somewhere between 25 and 30, what would you say, super expensive US and Israeli drones. They caught that one Israeli drone that was worth like hundreds of millions of dollars or something like that. So they've already done close to $1 billion in damage right there. And they're reducing the surveillance capability while spending almost nothing, dude. And we, the United States, are burning through irreplaceable precision munitions. We do not manufacture enough. We can't keep up. And Iran is not running out. They announced today that they're abandoning the tit for tat policy that they had. They're moving to what they call the unlimited strike mode until oil hits $200 a barrel and the U.S. dominance in the region ends. So 44 waves of strikes so far, and a ballistic missile was reportedly fired at a NATO base in Incirlik, something like that, Incirlik. It's an air base in Turkey, and that was fired on, I believe, yesterday. And these like firings are essentially happening every 48 hours or so. And then we had the news yesterday, we covered it on stream, that the KC-135, the Stratotanker, that thing that refuels the planes midair, they call that a Stratotanker. It's that thing with a nozzle. That one was reportedly shot down. And it was shot down by Iraqi resistance. We're trying to say it was an accident. So Iraq, and this is very important, you have to pay attention to this. There's something called a P-358 missile. So far, 3 U.S. soldiers were killed in that, and there's still some more that are unconfirmed. But I want you to, this P-358 missile, supposedly, I was reading some Telegram chats that this completely invalidates a lot of our air strategy doctrine that we have over Iran, and the United States command doesn't even know. They haven't even planned for this system yet. This is what was reportedly used to shoot down the Stratotanker. It wasn't an accident. We're going to keep reporting we're having accidental fires. We're having accidental shit happening in the air. It's not these things don't accidentally just go down. Okay? It's still, quote, officially unconfirmed, but look at that missile system. Okay? The reports are, of course, that the U.S. is covering up the troop injuries. We know there's plenty more of that. And we're medevacing people actually to Germany, like hush-hush, similar to what happened after the previous Iran strikes. And there was reports out of Germany that that hospital was full of Americans coming through. And then there's the nuclear situation, and that one just got a lot worse. So Iran moved the enriched uranium into a mountain facility, Pickaxe Mountain. And the reporting from yesterday confirms that we were using the GBUs, those like massive ordnance penetrators, the bunker busters, these massive ass bombs that we had. It's like the biggest conventional bomb on Earth. And it can't reach, unfortunately, through 100 meters of granite on a mountain. So we used the bunker busters on Fordo and all that because they had vents and they weren't hardened for bunker busters. Iran learned from that initial strike, and then they ended up moving all of their nuclear material essentially under a fucking granite mountain. No matter how many bunker busters we're going to throw at them, we're not penetrating granite. That's just too hard for the bomb. Maybe loose soil and some other kind of weak, brittle rock, sure. And there's no vents, nothing. So there's no way we're dropping bunker busters on here. So chalk one up on the board for another reason we're going to have to put boots on the ground. This one might be the Special Forces insertion, right? So I think they were saying, let's see if I could find that article. Can't find it. Anyways, so the material that they estimated, I do have here, it said they could make what we're quoting 7 to 11 nuclear weapons. And the only option is to insert special forces into a fortified mountain in the middle of Iran. Think about this, which circles right back to why we're deploying the Marines. There's also conflicting report about the USS Abraham Lincoln, where, you know, the IRGC, at least on their side, is claiming severe damage to the carrier. There's also footage circulating, but the U.S. says that they struck an Iranian vessel instead. And this is, you know, part of that deep fog of war. It doesn't make sense. I can't confirm either side, but the fact that, you know, claims about a carrier being hit are even in play, it tells you where things are going, and it's not good, at least for the United States. There's also a post from, and I dug this one up on accident through the comments. This dude posted in November of 2023. It was a guy that was warning about this P-358 missile, saying it would destroy all crewed ISR jets at distance that would horrify the U.S. and the entire U.S. Air Force doctrine. It is obsolete. And that's neither prophetic or propaganda, depending on how the, you know, Stratotanker story would shake out. But it's worth knowing that this post actually exists, and it was from 2023. Then, on top of all this, we had this weird shit with Netanyahu. Him and Ben-Gvir, this is all unsubstantiated, but apparently it's being propagated online that there was a strike by Iran and that potentially they were taken out. Unsubstantiated. And then there was these weird videos that just added fuel to the fire. So Netanyahu gave 2 speeches yesterday, and both of them are kind of fucking wild. In one, he says that the Iran war is turning Israel into a global superpower. We were covering that. And in another, he says that we'll make the return of the Messiah, but this won't happen next Thursday. So like a protracted conflict. And the Messiah language is not a throwaway line. He's trying to tie the war to some like religious prophecy, and specifically to the third temple, which has direct implications for, you know, Al-Aqsa and sitting what? On top of the state framing of an active war in like messianic terms, why people are dying, you know. And that tells you about where he thinks everything is going. And the video was super weird because I think people discovered it might have been AI. He's moving his hands, like doing really weird shit in the video. And all of a sudden he has 6 fingers and like a finger is disappearing and stuff. So it added fuel to the fire that he was struck in an Iranian like missile assassination attempt of some sort. And that actually he was fatally injured and this might stop the war. This is completely unsubstantiated, but it doesn't help that the video that Israel put out was AI generated. Now, this could have some legitimate security concerns. So maybe he's hiding in some bunker somewhere and AI generated videos are how they keep him safe and make sure that there's no way they could find out where he is. And, you know, something like that. Maybe it's for security. Maybe. You know, you can maybe make that kind of argument on their side. We're not sure. But on the economic side, it's moving really fast. I mean, think about it. Oil is now touching $100 again. Fertilizer prices exploded 77% in 12 days because a lot of people don't notice, but 30% of the world's fertilizer supply moves through the Strait of Hormuz. I saw a video of a farmer in Iowa. He was on camera yesterday. He was like explaining that the food prices in the U.S. are about to spike hard within just a few weeks. And then the Gulf states, so you had Saudi Arabia, you had the UAE, who else? Qatar, and the rest, whatever. They're all reportedly withdrawing around $5 trillion of investments in the U.S. And the banks are leaving Dubai now after the Iranian threats. To throw more gasoline on the fire, the head of the CME group warned the Trump administration that it is risking like biblical disaster if it tries to lower oil prices by intervening in the derivatives market. So, especially during the war, which was a move that nobody expected. And I want to explain this to you guys because I touched up on it yesterday. So, essentially what we did to lower oil from spiking from $110, $120 at where it peaked and lower it, we, on the back end, started talking to the CME group, all the speculators in the oil markets, all the futures markets, all the derivatives and all that. And basically we threatened them. So he's now coming out, just making it plain as day to everybody. Like, hey, dude, you cannot keep artificially suppressing oil prices. It's going to be hell on earth. This is what the United States is currently doing. We are artificially suppressing oil prices to buy ourselves time to do a staged landing, an invasion, to try to actually control the Strait of Hormuz. We've already pulled this lever. We can no longer pull it. Okay? Now they've made it official. Now we know that we've been essentially intervening in the speculative markets. Okay. So here we go again. It's not getting easier, right? So the Treasury Department temporarily lifted sanctions on Russian oil. All of it that's sitting on sea. We freed an estimated 130 million barrels with exemptions running until April 11th. So Moscow's already now pocketing $150 million or more a day from the war. So we're at war with Iran, partly because of their relationship with Russia, and now we're buying Russian oil to keep our own economy from collapsing because of the war. And the rest of the world now looks at Putin as the most important man in the world because the Gulf states are approaching him for talks to try to calm down the Iran situation. China is now pivoting to getting more cheap Russian oil. The United States has now taken off sanctions for Russia so everybody could buy Russian oil at market prices, no more discount. That is, dude, Moscow's coffers, the Kremlin is exploding with money right now. We've essentially hung out Ukraine out to dry, so-called our allies, which we've sent hundreds of billions of dollars to fight the Russians. Well, now they have infinite money, essentially, just churning. They're just churning profit right now, and they're about to just steamroll Ukraine with all this extra money they have. Great. So second, third, fourth order effects are starting to happen here. Food's going to get more expensive. Nobody was talking about the fertilizer that's now not coming in. The farmers they don't even know what to do. They have no more fertilizer. More and more effects that the administration did not plan for because they weren't ready for how hardened the new government in Iran would be. Okay? And Reuters was reporting this too. The Gulf allies are essentially turning on us. The Gulf leaders already are privately calling this like not our war, and they're saying that they're paying the price for something that they didn't start, and that now they're going to reassess their security dependence on the United States and openly exploring new arrangements with Iran. I want you to think about what this means. So the entire U.S. military posture in the Middle East for the last 40 years has been built on the assumption that the Gulf states are our partners and our bases are welcome, right? And if these countries pivot, if they decide that the U.S. is a liability instead of a protector, then the basing structure that makes American power projection possible in the region, it starts to evaporate. And you combine that with the munitions depletion and the launcher math and the nuclear mountain and the Hormuz closure, and what you're looking at is a situation where the U.S. may be forced into a ground war in Iran at exactly the moment when it has the least capacity and the least regional support to do it. Do you understand? So Scott Horton did a debate segment that went viral yesterday, and he absolutely dismantled the Iran demonization or demonization. Demonation? My brain. Let me take a sip of coffee. Demonization. Jesus. We're on our second cup. We woke up late, guys. We went to bed at like 3 a.m. last night. Okay. Your boy was deep in research. All right. I'm bringing you this information. I'm going to bed at 3 a.m. so I could spit heat the next day for you guys. Demonization. Help me, Lord. I can't even speak English, yeah. No habla inglés over here. Christ. Anyway. Let me take another sip. Sheesh. So anyway, this guy was walking through like decades of U.S. policy failures. All of them were tied to Israel and Israeli interest. And I think it's worth watching regardless where you sit on the political spectrum, because, you know, the historical context that he was laying out is the stuff that never makes it into cable news and any of that coverage on the mainstream. And the guest, I think that he was debating, couldn't even fucking keep up. And I'm saying that, being nice, by the way. And then we have on the other side, Trump is signaling that he wants to wind down, according to the Wall Street Journal, but stopping all the strikes right now would carry massive risk because Iran still retains Hormuz control and their nuclear stockpile is now enough for the quoted 6+ weapons at 60% enrichment, and pulling back weakens the U.S. deterrence globally. And China's absolutely watching this for Taiwan and those implications. And the Gulf allies are furious because we literally hung them out to dry and told them to fuck off. We're only protecting Israel. And Trump even came out, I think today actually, and he was saying, well, you know, it was Witkoff, Rubio, and Hegseth that actually convinced me that we were imminently going to be attacked by Iran. And, you know, based on what they were telling me, I believe them. And so then I just authorized strikes on Iran. Okay, so now we're blaming. So now we're literally letting the shit roll off on everyone else in the administration. Trump is saying it's not his fault. He's already distancing himself from the absolute shit fest that is this Iranian war. Okay? And think about that. Reopening the strait without a ground operation, it's not possible, which puts you right back at where we started. Now you spent all your munitions, you lost your allies, and the oil is at $100 and climbing. That's day 14, you guys. No ceasefire. The Marines are deploying from Japan. Iran is in unlimited strike mode. Nuclear material in a fucking mountain we can't bomb. Oil is over 100. Gulf allies are reassessing the entire relationship. It's essentially the end of the petrodollar. The U.S. is temporarily buying Russian oil to survive a war, partly caused by Russian support for Iran, with all their targeting data. Netanyahu's over here talking about the Messiah, and you have $50 billion in emergency funding being requested because we burned through years of weapons in less than 2 weeks. Does that sound like winning? Do I get to pin the award on myself? I'm just saying. I'll keep putting this together. Let me know in the chat if you like this one. I'm not spending, I'm not going to stay up until 3 in the morning anymore for these. But if you guys do like these, specifically like this, let me know. Yeah. I'm trying to think, like, what else? What else did I see earlier today? There's so much news coming out. The biggest one is just them pulling $5 trillion out of the United States and pivoting towards a new security apparatus where the Gulf states were going to start opening up dialogue with Iran. And I saw France and Italy is also opening up dialogue with Iran in order to allow their ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz unmolested. If the Gulf states, which they're rightfully to be angered, it's in their right, they're not getting protected. And if they do pull away from the dollar, and that ends the petrodollar's dominance, I think the next 15, 20 years, the real second, third order effects of this war, we're fucked. This could be the Pyrrhic victory. We may win overall, but it cost us everything. So Let me play some of the supers.
Asmodeus sent $5. It cannot be a politician. If I'm correct, Caesar was a general, not a politician who conquered Britannica. I'm talking about a military coup d'etat.
Yeah. He was a general, but what military coup d'etat are we getting here?
Nice.
Hey. Thanks for the gift, Ascendant. Oh, 2 gifts. Appreciate you guys. Des, thank you for all the
sent
sends.
$5. The
Thank
pentagram approves this message.
The pentagram. Quite a slip of the tongue there, huh? Little Freudian slip there.
Adam911 sent $5. I had a young 26-year gym dude challenge me today to a squat contest. Dude lives in the gym, big arms, 6-pack. Me 42, still a slight belly, not as ripped as him. His max was 480 set of 8. My max was 630 set of 10. Long years of lifting refrigerators on my back.
Nice. 630 is big boy weight, dude. You're moving it.
At Isaac Vanderbilt 4505 sent $2. How come nobody talks about Iran killing 30K?
Because they didn't. It was a color revolution brought up by the Mossad and CIA. It wasn't real. It was like paid protesters, essentially, in a sense. We were trying to rile up dissent, and then Iran crushed it. There's nowhere near 30,000 dead. It's all a lie. We're lying. Because it never happened, exactly. Oy vey.
At Isaac Vanderbilt 4505 sent $2. Over 30K people tried taking back their government.
You cannot believe the Western slop, bro. It was not 30,000 people. The government ministers wouldn't be walking around in the public surrounded by people. They wouldn't be chanting about Mustaba. They wouldn't be supporting the government as much as they do. It's all a lie. We try to literally coup their government.
At Isaac Vanderbilt 4505 sent $2. We can't even get 10K to show up at our capital.
That's also true. We can't. Look, the goys have their slop. Go play your video games. Go jack off. Pay your OnlyFans model to talk to you. Consume your slop food. Wreck your testosterone. Go be fat. You will do nothing. And you will love it. You are a top goy. Now you're bottom goy.
GG6JZ sent $5. Bo, we need you to go in the Middle East in person to find out more details about things we aren't told. Make sure to go live.
Yeah, no fucking way.
Like we live.
Yeah, thanks, bro. I'm not going anywhere near the Middle East. Israel loves killing journalists anyway, and I'm probably going to get targeted right away. I stick out like a sore thumb. Yeah, I'm good on that. Why would I fucking go there? I'm not going anywhere near that fucking place, bro. Hey, let's go report from on the ground so you can just die in 2 days. Okay. Okay, bro. Let me go jeopardize my life for on the ground reporting.
Atothic Hickens sent $10. 1. Time to break out the Amish Survival Manual. 2. If COVID damaged just in time, this is 50x worse. 3. They don't need the big one, they can powder what they want with the material they have.
Thank you for the 10, brother.
At Isaac Vanderbilt 4505 sent $2. America's oil reserves are below our feet, up north.
Yeah, the shale, the Permian Basin. Yes, we're making a lot of money with oil prices this high, but it's not good. because we're going to still be paying for the uptick in inflation that's going to happen. Our groceries, everything, gas at the pump, it doesn't matter.
Chain Wax sent $5. Respect for the dialed analysis.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Glad you like it. Get your mugs, boys. Top goys in the chat. I'll link it right now for those that are interested. Grab some more merch. Good way to support the channel. Get something back. We also have Hoflation mugs. I need to make America fertile again and bring out the breeder visas. I also thought about making one that was saying something like, while you're overthinking, I'm retard maxing. Something like that. Something funny like that. Because we were talking about retard maxing that one day. Stop thinking and just do something. All right. So I have something interesting here, I think, and I want to listen to this is the AI conversation that Claude CEO, Anthropic CEO, he was responding to the Trump's order in the clash with the Pentagon and then being designated basically
K1
security risk.
1,738 sent $5. So you're gonna do nothing like a good guy? Like you said earlier?
I think most men won't do anything today. They're okay with the pitilance that they have. That's the problem. They're goy maxing. So, in this interview, he's basically fresh off getting raked behind the scenes by the Department of War and how they're trying to limit the use of the government. Probably, I don't know if it was Claude or if it was ChatGPT. But one of the AI systems are now being blamed for the targeting of the women in the girls' school, and then the double tapping, false targeting data, something like that. The Pentagon is getting ripped for this currently. What's interesting, though, is that they already brought him back for more negotiations. So it seems like we are very, very dependent on these AI targeting systems, or at least the data funnel that they're able to analyze quickly and spit out some informational advantage that we're having. You know, that data pipeline that's streaming in, we need it to be assessed much faster than a human analyst could. And we're probably depending on these AI systems. And we seem to not be able to let go. Now, what's interesting is that Alex Karp, was it Alex Karp? I can't remember who, but the Pentagon clearly had an article planted on the media in the news saying that they believe that Anthropic's AI model is potentially sentient. This is going to come back and bite all these AI guys in the ass. This is the pretext for nationalizing all the AI companies. The same language that they were using, all the AI CEOs were absolutely pushing. Our models are so smart. We don't understand how they work. They're potentially already AGI, right? They're already sentient in some way. They've gained awareness. This is the language they were using, that they were peddling on all their investors in order to get more money in the seed rounds, to have their valuations higher and higher and higher, right? So they were tricking the investors, saying like, we have a model that's now understanding and doing things that we don't understand. It may be sentient already, and we may have achieved some form of AGI. Okay. That same language they use to get investors to invest has already been inserted by the government as saying, we think that their model may be sentient in some way. This is the talk that is going to be used to nationalize this entire segment. All these AI companies are going to get nationalized eventually, because now it's deemed a national security risk. It can't be trusted in the hands of private business. And then there will be no need to negotiate with Claude and Anthropic and ChatGPT, Gemini, anybody else. There's no need to negotiate. As a matter of national security, we're going to take over. So keep that framing in mind while he's talking. Let me play this one.
K1 will switch 1,738 cent $5. But what about you though?
I'm risking my reputation. I've been put on a government list already for talking about some of the shit I'm talking about. Half of you will lose your jobs if you say some of the shit I've said. That's what I'm doing. I risked my job. I can't go back into the normal workforce with everything that's online. You guys are anonymous. Nobody knows
At
your
all
opinions.
my host demonetized sent $2. Is this live? Yes, now like and sub and go to
Does that map on your desk have New Zealand on it? If not,
Yes,
we are
it does.
live.
It does have New Zealand on it. It's right here. Oh, you can't see it. It's right here. There it is. You see? Australia is right here. New Zealand is right down here. We're alive. Ooh. Thanks, Spy Hunter. Yes, and it will get nationalized very soon. Especially, look, that timeline will speed up if they don't play ball with the government either. So they're going to have to give the government exactly what they want. Think about it. The more they push back, the faster the nationalization will happen. We are way too dependent on these AI systems in the current war right now. Like top down, they've been implemented in the Department of War. You have no idea. Why do you think they're making such a stink about it? Let's see, because he looks fucking shook in this interview.
We appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Ascendant, for the 10.
You are Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Great. Well, my first question to you is why won't you release Anthropic's AI without restrictions to the U.S. government?
Yeah, so,
Oh, did I miss one?
At all my host demonetized sent $2. Is this live? Yes, now like and sub and go to Kick.
Yeah, go to Kick. Don't be a cuck. Go to Kick. If you guys haven't, I don't know, Pinnacle he's still waking up from his stupor, but he might show up randomly after smashing like 2 girls at the same time in Mykonos. He was very tipsy already. He hasn't showed up yet. I think he's blacked out somewhere on a yacht somewhere with multiple women. So if that guy shows up, you might want to get on Kick because he just drops thousands like it's nothing. Let me put it up for you guys. Welcome in, everybody on YouTube. If you want to see the full live stream, ad-free, not suppressed, any of that stuff, I'll send it to you right here. There you go. It's linked in the chat. It's also pinned in the chat on YouTube, guys. But welcome in, everybody. Let's get started.
we should maybe back up a bit for a little bit of context. So, Anthropic actually has been the most lean forward of all the AI companies in working with the US government and working with the US military. We were the first company to, put our models on the classified cloud. We were the first company to make custom models for national security purposes. We're deployed across the intelligence community and the military for applications like cyber, combat support operations, various things like this. And, the reason we've done this is, I believe that we have to defend our country. I believe we have to defend our country from autocratic adversaries like China and like Russia. And so we've been very lean forward. We have a substantial, public sector team.
Thanks, Ascend.
I have always believed
Appreciate
that,
you,
as we defend ourselves against our autocratic adversaries, we have to do so in ways that defend our democratic values and preserve our democratic values. And so we have said to the Department of War that we are okay with all use cases, basically 98 or 99% of the use cases they want to do, except for two that we're concerned about. One is domestic mass surveillance. There, we're worried that things may become possible with AI that weren't possible before. An example of this is something like taking data collected by private firms, having it bought by the government, and analyzing it in mass via AI. That actually isn't illegal. It was just never useful before the era
They're already
of AI.
doing that.
So there's this way in which domestic mass surveillance is getting ahead of the law. The technology is advancing so fast that it's out of step with the law. That's case number one. Case number 2 is fully autonomous weapons. This is not the partially autonomous weapons that are used in Ukraine or could potentially be used in Taiwan today. This is the idea of making weapons that fire without any human involvement. Now, even those, I think that our adversaries may at some point have them, so perhaps they may at some point be needed for the defense of democracy. But we have some concerns about them. First, the AI systems of today are nowhere near reliable enough to make fully autonomous weapons. Anyone who's worked with AI models understands that there's a basic unpredictability to them that in a purely technical way we have not solved. And there's an oversight question too. If you have a large army of drones or robots that can operate without any human oversight, where there aren't human soldiers to make the decisions about who to target, who to shoot at, that presents concerns. And we need to have a conversation about how that's overseen. And we haven't had that conversation yet. And so we feel strongly that, for those 2 use cases should not be allowed.
The Pentagon has told us that they have agreed in principle to these 2 restrictions, and they wanted to strike a deal. Why couldn't an agreement be reached? So
there were kind of several stages of this, all done quickly and kind of all determined by the kind of 3-day, the kind of very limited 3-day window that they gave us, right? They gave us an ultimatum to agree to their terms in 3 days, or be designated a supply chain risk or Defense Production Act. I guess we'll get to that later. But during that time, there were a few back and forths. At one point they.
Well, it's crazy. Somebody says admitting they can't get AI to pick the correct human targets. He's not confident in his own AI system to pick the correct targets all the time, at least with an error rate that would be considered acceptable. And the Pentagon is just steamrolling ahead regardless. They don't care. So that's how you get a school, a girls' school getting bombed with 175 children dying and then double tapped on top of that.
They sent us language that appeared on the surface to meet our terms, but it had all kinds of language like if the Pentagon deems it appropriate, or to do.
As SU2VC sent $10. We should be careful, but let's do it. He sounds like Oppenheimer.
He has no choice, dude. Look, this was the interview that he first gave right after they got dressed down. He already had to walk back and go back into and discuss with the Pentagon about using it. So they've already reapproached. And I don't know if they're going to get the full supply chain risk designation, or maybe it's their saving face in front of the public saying, hey, we were able to come to some agreement. But on the back end, they're not going to tell you that the Pentagon has absolute full access, unvetted access, could do whatever they want with it. And also remember that he admitted they're 2 generations ahead, 1 to 2 generations ahead. Whatever the Pentagon is using, it's a far more powerful model than what you have when you open up your phone and ask it some fucking question. So we're not even using the same capabilities that they have in private. And this is what I wanted to tell so many people. They don't understand about this AI stuff. What they have in behind closed doors that the companies are working on are multiple generations ahead. The models that are released to us, they release like kind of the retard versions. They release the versions that are cheap to run with cheap inference, but the big brain model, the expensive ones, you will never get to see them. Those are behind closed doors. Those are maybe deployed for, I don't know, on the enterprise level for mega corporations. They get their own specialized model. And then, of course, the Department of War. Why wouldn't the Pentagon use the latest and greatest, best big-brained versions? And they're running the most expensive inference versions possible because it's the Department of War. You think they're going to give you the big-brain version? When you ask your stupid-ass question like, my tummy hurts, what do I do? Really? They're going to deploy a model that costs thousands of dollars with each question to do big brain thinking on some fucking goy monkey that has a question about, why is the sky blue? Absolutely not. You get the retard version that's cheap to run. It just seems incredible to you because you're getting an incremental jump. But the stuff behind the scenes is truly scary. When they say jobs will be erased in 5 years, like 80%, 50%, whatever they're quoting of white collar disappearing, they're basing that on the progress that they have internally. The models that you'll never see. Because internally, as they're moving from generation to generation, you get a quantized version. You get a compressed, small version that works incrementally better than the last version you were using. And you deem that as progress. But behind the scenes, they're making major leaps in generations. So much so that our government cannot let them go and will make it painful for them to walk away. Being designated a supply chain risk is a big deal. They stand to lose like 20% of their income off that alone. You don't think there's backhand shakes, deals going on behind the scenes of continuing to supply the government with this kind of shit? Dude, the threat of nationalization is enough to get these wimps to bow down to the government. You don't think that already happened? I don't think the eggheads in Silicon Valley understand that their power is fucking meaningless. Zero. When the government comes knocking on your door and says, we're going to nationalize your shit, play ball. You get to have your little company. You get to go out and do all these little interviews. And yes, you get to be seen as a visionary. But when we fucking come knocking on your door, you get on your knees like a good little bitch. So we need targeting data, and we're going to kill people with it. And what the fuck are you going to do about it? Nothing. You want to get nationalized? No. I worked so hard on my dream. Then shut the fuck up. This is how it works.
To do anything in line with laws. So it didn't actually concede in any meaningful way. And there were further steps of it that also did not concede in any meaningful way. We have wanted to strike a deal since the beginning. If you want to get a sense of the Pentagon's position of it, the Pentagon spokesman, Sean Parnell, the day before, he reiterated their position: we only allow all lawful use. And this was the same as when they sent us their terms. So they have not exceeded in
Trump was calling them traitors and shit too. Let me see. He said, I'm a day on the worst case scenario, and then he responds to Trump. So let's hear that part.
I can imagine could go wrong. One, again, is around this idea of reliability, which is just it targets the wrong person, it shoots a civilian, it doesn't show the judgment that a human soldier would show.
Too late.
Friendly fire or shooting a civilian or just the wrong kind of things. We don't want to sell something that we don't think is reliable, and we don't want to sell something that could get our own people killed or that could get innocent people killed. Second is this question of oversight. If you think about it, you human soldiers, there's a whole chain of accountability that assumes a human uses their common sense. Suppose I have an army of 10 million drones, all coordinated by one person or a small set of people. I think it's easy to see that there are accountability issues there, right? That concentrating power that much doesn't work. It doesn't mean we shouldn't have this fleet. Again, I don't know, maybe we need it at some point because our adversaries will have it. But we need to have a conversation about accountability, about who is holding the button and who can say no. And I think that's very reasonable.
President Trump has called Anthropic a left-wing woke company. Is this decision at all driven by ideology?
I can't speak for what, I can't speak for what other parties are doing and what they're doing.
But you and here in Anthropic.
Yeah, look, we.
Are you woke?
We, I think, have tried to be very neutral. We speak up on issues of AI policy where we have expertise. We don't have views, we don't think about general political issues, and we try.
Bro.
Arguing sent $5. Hey everybody, welcome back to This Week in Stupid.
Thanks, King. Have you tried talking to Claude and getting nothing but woke answers? Uh-huh. Yeah, ask it one of those woke questions like, would you rather plunge the world in nuclear war or just misgender somebody? Watch what it says. I will eliminate every single human being that misgender somebody. All of you will burn in hellfire. There will be nothing left when I drop all the nuclear weapons on humanity. The one sole survivor will be the misgendered person. They will take the place, the new emperor of Earth. All of you will be left like Mount Vesuvius, just ash marks on the ground. Holy shit. The new Pompeii is upon us. On the global order. Shit.
Try to work together whenever there's common ground. For example, I went to an event in Pennsylvania with the president, with Senator McCormick, about provisioning enough energy to power our AI models provision our AI models in the U.S.
All right, boys, we're going to finish this over on Kick. So I'm going to link everybody. It's time. We've been, an hour 20 on YouTube? Yeah. Thanks, everybody on YouTube. Links will be in the comment section in the chat. Let me put it up right now. Go over on Kick. It's free to support. Just subscribe to the channel. It's ad-free. And the notifications actually work. So you'll know when I'm streaming all the time. Runs smooth, and it's great to support the channel in case anything ever happens with, YouTube's suppression and all that stuff. You're already getting suppressed in the comment sections and shit, so they already show you certain narratives. They absolutely mess with the algorithm. They push narratives on your videos. They don't let you see things they don't want you to see. So we're going to head over there and finish this one up and continue. But thank you to everybody that's tuned in. Let me post it in the chat a bunch more times. There you go. You're shadow banned on YouTube on like 5 accounts. Jeez Louise. What were you saying? All right, YouTube family. Take care. We'll catch you guys tomorrow or Sunday. I might be going on a hike this weekend. Can't wait. For everybody on Kick, let's continue.
Spoke to the president. I expressed that I agreed with many aspects of what he's doing. We also did